The last words from President Cyril Ramaphosa: we shall overcome, we dare not be defeated, we dare not fail, says President Cyril Ramaphosa, addressing the nation there. Of course, breaking news that the lockdown in South Africa, which was due to end on April the 16th, that has been extended by 2 weeks to the end of the month. And of course, the president saying that the lockdown is working. Some crucial statistics that the president has received, and one would presume that he received that at an earlier visit today from the National Center that collates all the scientific data. The president indicating that the lockdown is working, indicating there that the increase in the daily rate of infections prior to the lockdown was at 42%, and after the lockdown, that increase in the daily rate of infections standing at 4%. So the president saying that government does not want to reverse those gains as well, and what they will do is intensify public health response. And one of the crucial issues there, the Solidarity Fund, I want to talk about that now. Also breaking news, one of the key announcements made by President Cyril Ramaphosa: 1/3 of the salaries of the executive to be donated to the Solidarity Fund. Let's discuss this and other things more. Joining me on the line now, Owen Nkomo, who's an economic analyst and CEO of Inkunzi Wealth Group. A very good evening to you, Owen. Thanks indeed for your time. First of all, your response to what the president has announced.
Good evening to you, and good evening to the rest of the viewers. Wow, I mean, it's I'm very impressed. In brief, honestly, the way the president has delivered today's message and the overall manner in which our government has managed to arrest this coronavirus disease over the past few weeks, I mean, it's just been phenomenal. And I think that the unpacking of the extension, in my view, is extremely reasonable. And I think the government at the same time has put behind this decision necessary financial support for the economy. And I am hoping that the implementation will follow suit in terms of making sure that people do actually get the support that has been placed by the government.
And I certainly see the president wanting to really portray an aspect of it won't just be a suffering of the country's people, where, for example, I'm hearing now this 1/3 of the salaries of the top executive will be donated to the Solidarity Fund. And the president also outlining quite extensively the cushioning, in particular, for some of the most vulnerable in society, as well as amounts in terms of cushioning. For example, the UIF setting aside 40 billion rand, already 365 million of that being paid out to cushion the ramifications of the spread of the coronavirus.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a nice all-round cover for all citizens in the country, particularly people who are the most vulnerable. And at the same time, the people that are sort of in the middle class to the low end of the employment scales are getting the support from the government, Griselda. And I really welcome the fact that the government has also, stepped in and said government employees, the ministers and the governors and other people working in the government, and the president and his deputy are also going to take salary cuts. It shows that they're putting some skin in the game into the current challenge. They're not just waiting for corporates to put money into this and for National Treasury through our taxes to put support into the system. They are also taking pain in the short term. I really think that this is very, very much what we need out of a leadership in a crisis like this, and one hopes, Crystal, that it gets carried through even post the COVID virus challenges.
Yeah, 2 weeks more added to what was initially meant to be the end of the lockdown on the 16th of April. Lots of cushioning for some of the most vulnerable that the president has spoken about. But of course, the economic ramifications is certainly something that we cannot just shove aside. What does this possibly mean? We saw the rand tanking, for example, and the poorest of the poor, the most vulnerable in society. You could kind of pick up a sense of agitation somewhere about how they're going to make ends meet. How does the president then balance that? How do you then recover from the current situation where South Africa itself cannot afford, in this current instance, a continuation of a lockdown, even though for a good cause, the president says?
Look, I think I really stand behind the decision made here to extend the lockdown by another 2 weeks because, in my view, if we rush and go back to work, you might find that this curve that's been flattening, hoping it doesn't confuse many people out there, is actually going to start steepening once again. We'll start to see more infections coming through. So I think if we shut the system for another 2 weeks, the government has got enough room to go out and implement all these healthcare measures that they're doing, the door-to-door testing of people. And at the same time, we will lose money, obviously, no doubt. We have lost a lot of money as a country. We will miss our tax targets, but I think so too will the rest of the world. We all have to accept that post this coronavirus situation, we will have a new dispensation. We have to start thinking about things differently. But importantly, we will have to work very hard to make sure we can cover some of the lost ground. And I think that I really applaud the work done as well by SAB, and that the Khanyaho is done well to provide the liquidity we need in the markets and to provide for people that are unemployed to also get supported. And I think it's a great opportunity for the country to get data about who's doing what, who's unemployed, and how the government can continue to help in future pandemics like this one.
Let's look at the 1.2 billion rand, of course, relief for smaller farmers and food security. That's one of the crucial aspects, food security in the country, in particular during this time.
Yes, absolutely. Yet another welcome reprieve. We need, obviously, to make sure there's a consistent supply of food. Our farmers have gone through the most difficult challenges given the drought we experienced in the past few years, and I think we need to make sure that they are supported in order to continue supporting us with food supply through this pandemic. I just hope that people will still have enough access to the food that that the farmers produce during this lockdown period. I'm hoping that there's going to be flexibility in terms of allowing people to continue to have access to the food. And I also applaud the fact that the Solidarity Fund has actually started dispensing money, particularly to help the people who are at the forefront of fighting this disease. Yeah. Over $1 billion rand has been put to use, as the president has indicated. And I'm hoping that our brothers and sisters in the healthcare space, in the police services, and all the people working in the front line are taken care of in terms of all the sanitary stuff they need and all these masks that they need as well. So things look to me like there might be a lot of challenges, lots of questions, but I think that there is a lot that's been thought about in this short space of time. And I think if we can do this in such a short space of time under these challenges, can you imagine if the same gusto and the same cooperation between corporate South Africa and individuals and the presidency continues? The country can survive this.
Yeah, truly remarkable, Owen, indeed. And I mean, what then would South Africa not be able to withstand? Yes, with good reasoning, the president outlining why he's needed to extend the lockdown for a further 2 weeks to the end of the month. But what is it that South Africa would not be able to withstand? Would we be able to extend, probably continue way beyond that, if I may?
Look, I think that we'll need some data to inform that decision, and the president has said that we cannot make decisions without getting the data. So let's let the presidency and his team get the data so they make decisions. Anything further than that will start to hurt the economy. But I think at the same time, let's think about this little factor, Griselda. America will still remain closed, and it's the biggest driver of world economy, followed by China there. China is starting to open up, but the whole world needs to be working. And I think that for that reason, our fortunes remain linked to the rest of the world's fortunes. But we need to take care of ourselves and cover our own backyard so that when the rest of the world starts opening up, we can then continue with the wave of economic trade that should happen so that we make up for this lost time.
Owen, always a pleasure indeed. Thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. Just a few moments after President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, announcing a 2-week extension on the lockdown here in South Africa, of course, bringing that to the end of the month. The president saying we cannot reverse the gains that have been made so far, and certainly scientific data showing there that those gains then meant that the number of infections, or the infection rate in South Africa, had significantly dropped since the instituting of the lockdown in the country. Owen Nkomo, CEO of Inkunzi Wealth Group, thanks indeed for your time.